Hello class, we were studying the lesson safety and first aid. In first part of the lesson we have studied about accidents. So accidents can happen anywhere without our knowledge. If we are careless, sometimes even if we are careful, accidents may occur. So while handling things we have to be careful. When we are working, we have to concentrate on our work. And we must know about the things in which we are working. It may be the instruments or the machines. It may be very small machines also. So if we know about the machines, its mechanism, then we can avoid accidents. So in the second part of this lesson, we shall continue studying about first aid. What we have to do when a person meets with an accident. If at all we see a person in danger or if he is suffering, then what we have to do? What can we do? Being children, how we can help them? Let us study. Accidents can happen no matter how careful you are. Even if you are careful, sometimes accidents may occur. But many people do not know what to do when there is an accident or an injury. We may think and stand there without helping the person in danger. We don't know what to do, but we have to help them. We have to help the injured person. So, what it is called? It is called the first aid. The immediate help given to an injured person or a sick person is called as the first aid. So, what are the main aims of first aid? Why it is necessary to give first aid for an injured person? It is necessary because to save his life. Then we have to make sure that the condition of the injured person or the sick person who is suffering there does not become worse. He must come out from the danger. So the first aid must be given. And one more point is that we have to keep the injured person or the sick person comfortable till proper medical help is given, or till he reaches the hospital we have to keep him comfortable. So all these are the main aims of first aid. What are the aims of first aid? First of all, we have to keep in mind that we have to save the life of the person who is in danger. Then we have to make sure that he feels comfortable till he reaches the hospital, and then we have to make sure that the condition of the injured person does not become worse. So all these are the aims of first aid. It is very important for us to know what to do when an accident occurs. So we should know about first aid and also when to give first aid and when not to give. If we are aware of giving first aid, what has to be done whenever we see an accident or if at all we suffer from danger, what can we do? So, being children, we should give first aid only if the injury is small. For example, if the person is suffering from a small burn or a small scratch, and then we can call an elderly person. If the injury looks so bad or if it is very serious, if a person is suffering from loss of blood from the body, then immediately we being children have to call an elderly person soon. and the elderly person will look after the person in danger. So in such situations, in situations where the person is very serious, then we being children must not try to give first aid. We have to call an adult or an elderly person for help. How can you give first aid for cuts and scratches? So, what we have to do, first of all, we have to wash our hands before we help the injured person. Why do we wash our hands? Because to get rid of the germs, if at all some germs are there in our hands, by washing our hands, the germs will be thrown away. So, if we don't wash our hands, the germ can enter the body of the injured person through the wound, and it may cause infection also. So it is very much necessary for us to wash our hands before we are helping the injured person. If the cut or scratch is very small, then what we have to do? We have to wash it with the soap, and we have to use plenty of water. After that, using cotton or clean cloth, we have to dry the wound, and then we can apply an antiseptic cream. What do you know about antiseptic cream, children? Antiseptic is a substance, is a cream that can prevent the growth of germs. So, if at all there is wound or scratches on a person, then first of all the wound or the scratch has to be washed properly, then it has to be dried with a cotton cloth or a clean cloth, and we have to apply antiseptic cream. Then after applying the antiseptic cream, we have to cover the wound with a clean plaster or bandage. Then if the cut is very deep and if it is bleeding heavily, if the blood is oozing out of the body heavily, then we have to wash the wound with water. See here, can you see in the picture? Yes, we have to clean the area around the wound with soap and water. Then we have to try to stop the bleeding by pressing down on the wound with a clean cloth or cotton wool. So, if the bleeding does not stop, then again we have to press the wound with some cotton, placing over the wound. If the wound does not stop bleeding again, what we have to do? We have to take a bandage or strip of cloth called tourniquet. It is used to cut off the flow of blood from the heart to the wound. So, we have to use a bandage or strip of cloth. That strip of cloth is known as tourniquet. This tourniquet is wrapped firmly 2 or 3 times around the limb, about 5 to 10 centimeters above the wound, and it is knotted. And we have to leave the tourniquet as it is till we reach the doctor. So, can you see in the picture here, children? The man has got a wound in his hand, in the wrist region. So, what can be done? We have to clean the wound first of all. We have to clean the area. We have to clean the hand or around the wound with water and soap. Then we have to try to stop the bleeding by pressing down on the wound with a pad of clean cloth or cotton wool. Either we can use cotton or we have to use a cloth, clean cloth. So the bleeding stops. If the bleeding does not stop, then what we have to do? Again we have to press the wound with cotton wool. Even then, if the wound does not stop bleeding, then we have to use a strip of cloth called tourniquet. Can you see the strip of cloth? Yes, this is the tourniquet. So, what is the use of this tourniquet? It is used to cut off the flow of blood from the heart to the wound. So, what has to be done? This tourniquet has to be wrapped around the limb, around the hand, 2 to 3 times around the limb. So, the wound is in his wrist region. We are wrapping the band or we are wrapping the cloth tourniquet tightly about 5 to 10 centimeters above the wound, and it is knotted. And we have to leave the tourniquet as it is till we reach the doctor. Understood? In the case of deep wound, then we have to take the injured person to the doctor immediately, and the doctor will have to stitch the wound and close it. The doctor may also decide to give him injection and to prevent a disease called tetanus. In order to prevent the disease called tetanus, sometimes the doctor gives the injection also. If at all the person is injured with iron articles or iron materials, of course the doctor will give him the injection so that he will not suffer from the disease called tetanus. How to give first aid for broken bones? If the accident is very bad, sometimes the person may have cracks or breaks in the arms or legs or in any bone. So that is said to be a fracture, a bone fracture. So bone fracture means the bones will have small cracks in it or small breaks also. The bone may break sometimes. So that is said to be fracture. And a fracture, a bone fracture is very painful. So the first aid to be given for a fracture is to make sure that the part of the body where there seems to be a fracture must not be moved. We must not press that part. We must not give a massage to the part. The fracture will be very painful. So before attending the doctor, the first aid to be given to a fracture is to make sure that the part which is very painful must not be moved. If the fracture is in the arm or hand, a sling made of cloth will prevent movement. Sling means a flexible strap. A flexible strap can be used, or a belt can be used in the form of a loop so as to support the arm or hand. That will make sure that the arm or hand which is very painful will not move. It will prevent movement. If the fracture is in the limb, then strapping splints to the injured limb will prevent further damage by preventing movement. See, can you see in the picture here? Yes, splints are used in order to support the hand so that the bone will not move, and this can be done only if by someone who has training in bandaging. Otherwise, the person has to be taken immediately to the hospital and treated by the doctor itself. How to give first aids for sprains? Sometimes a joint such as ankle or wrist can get twisted. You all know that we have many small bones in our body, and bones are joined together by joints. When we are playing outside, when we are doing some physical work, sometimes the joints get twisted and it is very painful. It will swell up also. This is called as sprains. The joints swell up. That swelling of the joints is known as sprain. And what can we do? Ice packs may be placed on the sprained area in order to decrease the swelling. If we place ice packs or ice wrapped in a cloth, and if we keep it on the area of sprained region, it decreases the swelling. The joint should not be moved until it heals. We have to take rest. We must not play until the swelling heals or the sprain heals. We must not move the part of the area where we have sprains. Healing takes a few days, of course. An elastic bandage can be wrapped around the joint in order to give support and to prevent movement of the joint. Okay? And bandage can be wrapped so that it gives support to our region wherever we have sprain. We have to take rest, and after few days it completely heals. How to give first aid for animal bites? You all know that the bites of animals such as dogs, monkeys, cats, and bats can be dangerous. You might have seen monkeys playing here and there in the park, and they come near people in search of food. So sometimes they may bite the people also. In some houses, even the dogs may be very dangerous. They can bite people. So, the bites of animals such as dogs, monkeys, cats, and bats can be very much dangerous. You know why? Because the mouth of all the animals will contain germs, and the liquid which is present inside their mouth or the saliva can cause infection in human beings. So, the bites of animals such as bats, dogs, cats can lead to infection and may lead to serious disease in human being, which is called as rabies. So, rabies is a disease caused by the bite of animals. So, what we have to do? How the first aid can be given? We have to wash the bitten area well with soap and water. As soon as some animal bites, we have to wash the bitten area very well with soap and water. So, what will happen if at all some saliva is there? Saliva of the animals is there in that area, then it will get washed off. After that, we have to go to the doctor and we need to take injections in order to prevent rabies. If at all poisonous snake, venomous snake such as cobra bites a person, then the venom spreads through the blood. What do you mean by venom, children? Venom means poison. The poison that is present in the mouth of the snake or in the body of scorpion is known as venom. So if at all the venom spreads through the blood, then it is very much dangerous. The person may lose his life also. So what to do? We have to avoid moving. We must not move here and there, since movement will cause the venom or the poison to spread quickly inside the body. So the person who is suffering must be made to sit, or we must make him not to move. Then we have to keep the bitten part of the body in a lower position than the heart. So we have to treat the snake bite like a fracture. If the bite is on the limb, then we have to use a splint to make sure that the limb is not moved. And we have to take the patient to the hospital as soon as possible, and anti-venom injection has to be given. In case of a bee sting, what do you mean by sting, children? See, in insects like bees, ants, and scorpions, there will be a small pointed organ at the end of their abdomen. Okay, and this organ is capable of injecting poison. So if at all a bee stings, then what we have to do? We have to remove the stinger carefully as soon as you can. So if at all a bee stings, then that stinger has to be carefully removed very soon. That means as soon as possible. If the stinger is squeezed, more venom will be injected into the body. You can use the edge of a library card or an ID card or a bank card in order to remove the stinger by scraping it off. So what we have to do, as soon as a bee stings, then you have to remove the stinger very carefully and soon. So you have to use a card, a plain card. It may be like ID card or a bank card or a library card, whatever it is. With those cards, you have to scrape it off your skin. Then you have to wash the affected area or that injected area with cool water, and you have to use soap also. You have to wash it with the soap. You can use ice packs to bring down the swelling. You can use ice pack. You have to take ice, wrap it in a cloth and keep it on the area where swelling is there. So your pain also will be controlled and you will have less pains. So you have to be careful to see to it that the stings are removed very carefully and as quickly as possible. After that, you can use ice packs. You have to wash the area with cold water, use soap also, and then you can use ice packs on the area. First aid for nosebleeds. Many children frequently suffer from nosebleeds, or nosebleeds occur during the winter month and also in dry hot regions. So what can be done in order to control the nosebleeds? Sometimes children may also get nosebleeds while playing. So two things can be done in order to stop the bleeding of the nose. First of all, we have to sit straight and lean slightly forward. Can you see in this picture? She is sitting straight and a bit forward. Then with our hands, using our fingers, that is thumb and forefinger, we have to pinch the nostrils for about 10 minutes. We have to hold the nose tightly for about 10 minutes. Using our thumb and forefinger, we have to press our nostrils for about 10 minutes. So when the pressure is applied, the bleeding will stop. So how to breathe during that time? We have to breathe through our mouth and we have to wait till the bleeding stops. We have to wait for about 7 to 8 minutes, or it may take about 10 minutes also. We must not blow the nose during that time, and we have to breathe through our mouth. The second thing what can be done is we can prepare a ice pack by wrapping ice in a cloth, and we have to apply the ice pack on the nose. This also will reduce bleeding. When we apply ice pack on the nose, it will reduce bleeding. So which are the two steps in order to control the nosebleeds? First of all, we have to pinch, we have to sit straight and lean slightly forward. We have to pinch the nostrils with our fingers for about 10 minutes. When we apply pressure on the bleeding portion, then the bleeding will stop. We have to breathe through our mouth. We must not blow the nose for few hours also. The second thing to stop nose bleeding is to make ice packs by wrapping ice cubes in a cloth, and we are applying the ice pack on the nose. So this will reduce the nose bleeds. How to give first aid for burns? When we work with fire, when we are playing with the fire or hot objects or boiling water or steam or firecrackers, burns may occur. It may be an accident also. So burns are injuries caused by hot objects or fire or some chemicals such as acids. Sometimes burns can be very minor, or sometimes it may be very serious and it is painful also. And one thing we have to remember, that minor burns can be treated at home. Minor burns or small burns causes redness of the skin. Only some reddishness can be seen on the skin. Blisters will not be formed. Blisters means bubbles on the skin due to damage of the skin. Bubbles formed due to the damage of the skin due to burns, that is known as blisters. So blisters will not be formed during a minor burn. What we have to do? The first thing to do is to wash our hands or the area where we have burns. We have to wash that area with lots of cool water for about 10 minutes. Then, if at all the pain continues, we can apply a wet cloth over the burn. We can wrap the wet cloth, cotton cloth, over the burn. So, the pain becomes less. If at all the burns are severe, then the skin becomes red and bubbles are also formed. Blisters are also formed in the area. So what we have to do? We have to immerse, soak the area in running cold water for about 10 minutes. or we have to soak the area in a vessel containing cold water for about 10 minutes. Then we must not allow the blisters to break. If at all it breaks, then it may get infected, then the area may get infected. So the blisters must not be allowed to break. If the blisters break, then we have to wash the infected area with water, and we have to use some soap, mild soap, and we have to apply antibiotic cream. Antibiotic cream is a medicine that will stop the growth of germs and it will kill the germs also. So if at all the blisters break, then we have to wash our hand with soap and we have to apply antibiotic cream. And the wound has to be covered with a loose bandage. Some cloth can be wrapped around the wound. In case of severe burns, the patient has to be taken to the hospital. If at all the burns are from chemicals like acids, then the area has to be washed under cool running water, and then the patient has to be taken to the hospital